I felt validated by your mess. I don't know,
Oh,
but I felt sane and normal, and was like, oh my goodness, if Pearl didn't have it together at my age, you're okay. I was sitting there like, thank you so much. You see finished product,
Exactly.
and you don't know that. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was that you moved during careers. So there are things that you can be good at doing, and there are the things that you should be doing. And learning when to say no to that and when to move on. And your journals had your thought process to it, which helped because as you get older, there are careers that you've done in your past that, yeah, you were good at them, but it didn't fulfill you at all. And then there's those things that you have that longing for, that you feel like this is what I was put here to do. But there's so many things around you. There are people who tell you this is what you're supposed to be doing, or responsibilities that it feels like if I start, and we'll just use writing as that transition. If I start writing now, then I'm starting over. When I was here and I was somebody and I was doing this and I was doing that. So what was the thing that helped you to be brave enough to know when it was time to stop this and go on to that?
Working for Maynard Jackson. Hardest job I ever had. When people ask me, isn't it hard to be a writer? I say, not as hard as working for the mayor. Not as hard as working for the mayor. Because he was the city's first African-American mayor. He intended to make a mark. He intended to do well. And he expected the same of us. So that he would call us, those of us who worked for him, at like 5 o'clock in the morning and say, did I wake you? And of course the truthful answer is, you know you woke. But that was not the answer. We were trained to say, no, Mr. Mayor, what can I do for you? Because if he was calling us at 5, we knew he had been up since 3, working. So that it was a very demanding job. I wouldn't trade it. I started off writing speeches for him in his campaign, and then took the job as the press secretary, director of communications. But I liked writing speeches. I know how to make somebody sound like themselves. I'm a playwright. That's what I do. I grew up listening to my father, so that I'm good at writing speeches. But then when you move into City Hall and you become the press secretary and the director of communications, you have to be dealing with the press, you have to be dealing with department heads, all of that bureaucracy, and all of the very intense energy from all fronts that were directed at his office. The high expectations of black folks, the nervousness of white folks, the same thing we see with President Obama, even now, that same level of thing. So I was totally committed. I also went to work for him, and I was 3 months pregnant, didn't realize it at the time. So I had a brand new, very stressful job, and then I was pregnant and had a new baby. So I was writing probably after, like maybe between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, because I was still trying to do my own work. And I remember one day coming home, I was writing about, one thing and another for the mayor, always very serious things. I mean, he's the mayor. So I came home, I had done everything, put my daughter in the bed. Okay, it's now midnight, I can start writing. I'm working on a love poem. And I'm trying to write a love poem, and all I could hear was the mayor's voice. Now, I loved him, but not like that.
That's not the voice.
And I said to myself, okay, you're going to have to make a choice. Either you're going to be his writer and do the work that he needs for you to do, or you have to tell him that you have to move on to something else and focus on your own writing. And working for Maynard Jackson at City Hall was the last full-time job I had, because I didn't know if I could ever make a living writing, but I knew I could piece together an income doing freelance work, doing all of that. And the fact is, I was going to write, whether or not I ever made a dime. I'm a writer. I needed to write. I wanted to write. So I left that job, and of course worried incessantly about money and how I'm going to pay my rent and all of that. But it was that moment you're talking about where you say, okay, I'm good at this, and I can get better at this, but then I won't be able to do this, which is what I'm really supposed to do. So jump, take a jump. If you can't do it when you're, 30, then you're never going to do it when you're 60. I know people who used to say, people my age who would say, when I retire, I'm going to do what I really want to do. And then they worked a job they hated for like 50 years. And by the time that job is over, you don't even remember what you used to want to do, because that job has taken all of your energy and creativity and heart into that moment. And by the time you're retired from a job like that, you're exhausted. You just want to sit down and kind of smell the roses. And I didn't want to do that, because I know you can't sustain that level of energy over all that time, and still do the work that you're really supposed to do.
Yeah.